Abdullah, you are muting yourself. Please check before speaking. Abdullah, you are on mute again. Abdullah, am I audible to you, Dr. Abdullah?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Okay.
I was
Please,
just talking to someone else. Actually.
okay. Please just note that when you are speaking, you should be on unmute, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
Abdullah, I
think
think we can start now.
Yes, yes, sir. We can start. I think Nuzat ma'am is here.
Dr. Sadaf is good to go. Sadaf, you are mute.
Okay, good evening, one and all. I welcome one and all. I, Nusrat Mehdi Umar, on behalf of the Department of Management, Jamia Hamdard, would extend an overwhelming, heartfelt welcome to our esteemed guest for the evening, Professor Kevin Len Keller. It makes me jittery, sir, because major part of my PhD thesis, the basis of that has been your book and your work on brand management. So again, I welcome you today on behalf of the department. I would also like to welcome the Dean, Professor Shibu John, the Dean Students Welfare, Professor Reshma Nasreen, Head of the Department, Dr. Nadimul Haq. I welcome all the participants outside of the university who have joined, as well as the faculty members and our students. We now officially start the program. And keeping with the tradition of Jamia Hamdard, I invite Dr. Abdullah for the recitation of the Holy Quran. Abdullah. Abdullah,
Imam Saab will please start the recitation of Holy Quran.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته يا أهل الإيمان. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين. يا مريم اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. ذلك من أنباء الغيب نوحيه إليك وما كنت لديهم إذ يلقون أقلامهم أيهم يكفل مريم وما كنت لديهم إذ يختصمون إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة منه اسمه المسيح عيسى بن مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين ويكلم الناس في المهد وكهلا ومن الصالحين قالت رب أنى يكون لي ولد ولم يمسسني بشر قال كذلك الله يخلق ما يشاء إذا قضى أمرا فإنما يقول له كن فيكون ويعلمه الكتاب والحكمة والتوراة والإنجيل ورسولا إلى بني إسرائيل أني قد جئتكم بآية من ربكم صدق الله العظيم.
Translation of Holy Quran, Chapter 3, Surah Al Imran, verse 42 to 49. And remember the time when the angel said to Mary, peace be upon her, O Mary, peace be upon her, surely God has selected you, purified you, and chosen you above all the women of the world. O Mary, peace be upon her, be obedient to your Lord, prostrate yourself in prayer, and bow down along with those who bow down. This is news of the unseen that we revealed to you, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You were not with them when they cast their pens to decide who would be Mary's guardian, nor were you there when they disputed about it. Remember when the angels proclaimed, O Mary, peace be upon her, God gives you good news of a bird from him. His name will be the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, honored in this world and also honored in the hereafter. And he will be one of those nearest to God. And he will speak to the people when he will be an infant baby and also in his matured age and will be one of the righteous. Mary, peace be upon her, said, My Lord, how can I have a child when no man has ever touched me? Angel replied, It will happen. God creates what he wills. When he decides a matter, he simply says, Happen, and it happens. And God will teach him knowledge of book and wisdom and Torah and the gospel and make him a messenger and prophet towards the children of Israel, peace be upon him.
Nusrat, unmute yourself. Nusrat, unmute yourself.
Sorry. Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you, Mamta. Professor Keller happens to be a super brand in himself in the field of brand literature as well as branding practice. As we proceed towards the commencement of the program, a few points need to be explained. So, for the students and the participants, throughout the program, the participants need to keep their microphones on the mute mode. The students can write the questions in the chat box and it will be taken up one by one at the end of the presentation of Professor Keller. And the link of the attendance will be shared at the end of the program. You can fill the form through the link for the certificate. Hello. So now I would like to invite Dean, School of Management and Business Studies, Professor Shibu John, to formally welcome our guest, Professor Keller.
Good morning, Professor Keller, and good evening to all the other participants. We are very fortunate that Professor Keller is addressing our students today. Not only the students, research scholars, faculty members are present, and I'm sure that today the brand Jamia Hamdard has tremendously gone up after having interacted with Professor Keller.
Professor Shibu, you have gone on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think you would have not heard anything from me now.
We heard that the brand Jamia Hamdard has gone up by the
Okay, I'm
sheer
really sorry.
presence of Professor Keller.
So I'll basically understand that our management students, faculty members, and research scholars have grown up. They have reached to this stage by reading your books, research papers, etc. As I mentioned, that Jamia Hamdard is relatively a new university in India, and it is located in the heart of New Delhi. And management school is a prominent in Jamia Hamdard. Other than management school, the Jamia Hamdard has around 10 more schools, and primarily focusing on the health education. We have a very good pharmacy school. We have medical college, nursing college. School of Science is one of the prominent in in India and highly ranked in Indian universities. The management school we started in 1998 with a small batch, and today it's one of the biggest schools of Jamia Hamdard. And we are offering not only postgraduate programs, we are offering PhD programs, undergraduate programs, BCom, health management, pharmaceutical management, etc. And students of Jamia Hamdard has been, all the alumni are working in different, big organizations in India, outside India also, and we have a pretty large alumni base all over India. I am sure that some of the students are working in US also. And sir, I'm definitely sure that after listening to you, our students will definitely be wiser in the brand management side. Our students are, we have around 100 plus PhD scholars working in different areas of management, which includes brand management also. We have a pretty large faculty members working in marketing and brand management. And with that introductory note, I'm sure that Dr. Sadar will introduce you more about yourself to the audience. And once again, I warmly welcome you, sir, and hope that this session will be very much beneficial to all the students, faculty members, and research scholars. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now I would like to invite my friend and colleague, Dr. Sadaf Siraj, for the brief introduction of the speaker, Professor Keller.
Thank you, Dr. Nudrat. A very good evening to all of you, and a very good morning, Professor Keller. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing our distinguished speaker for the session, Professor Kevin Lane Keller. Although I fully acknowledge and understand that an author, researcher, and a professor of his repute and caliber does not require any introduction, still, I deem it my privilege to be introducing Professor Keller. Professor Kevin Lane Keller is the E.B. Osborne Professor of Marketing at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, where he teaches MBA courses on marketing management and strategic brand management, and lectures in executive programs on that topic. Previously, Professor Keller was on the faculty of Graduate School of Business at Stanford University, where he also served as the head of the marketing group. Professor Keller's illustrious academic resume includes degrees from Cornell, Duke, Carnegie Mellon universities. He is known for his award-winning research with over 130 published papers, apart from innumerable working papers, presentations, and publications to his credit. He is most popularly known for his book on strategic brand management, which is a widely used textbook on brand management used by top business schools and leading firms around the globe. This book is heralded as the Bible of branding. He has published his research in renowned journals like Journal of Marketing, Journal of Marketing Research, and Journal of Consumer Research, to name a few, and has also served the editorial boards of these journals. His research has been widely cited with more than 2.5 lakhs citation. I repeat, with more than 2.5 lakh citations, and has received various awards. Professor Keller has also co-authored in Professor Philip Kotler's recent edition textbook of marketing management. Through the years, Professor Keller has served as the brand confidant to marketers for some of the most successful global brands, including Accenture, American Express, Disney, Ford, Intel, Levi's, LL Bean, Nike, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson's, Unilever, and the list is endless. His senior marketing training clients include giants like Coca-Cola, Cisco, GE, Google, IBM, Microsoft, Nestle, to name a few. He's been a recipient of innumerable awards. I won't be able to list them all, but a few of them are American Marketing Association Doctoral Consortium Fellow Award in 1984, and then for faculty in the year 1988, 1991, 96, 98, 2002, 2005, up till 2017. 25 years Consortium Fellow Research Excellence Award from American Marketing Association Foundation in the year 2009 and 10. 2019 Blair Award for Marketing Accountability from the Marketing Accountability Standards Board, and 2020 Paper of the Year in Sports Marketing for Understanding Sponsorship, a Consumer-Centric View, again by American Marketing Association. Trust me, I could have gone for another 10 minutes talking about achievements and accolades of Professor Keller, but now without wasting any more time, I would like to invite Professor Keller to please address the audience. Over to you, Professor. Thank you.
No, thanks so much for that very kind introduction, and all. It's just a real pleasure to be here virtually. It's amazing that we can do this. And if you don't know, I'm at where I am. I'm actually in New Hampshire, state of New Hampshire, and depending on your U.S. geography, you may or may not know where that is. It is near Boston, the kind of northeastern part of the U.S., actually fairly near Canada, kind of close to Montreal. It's an area called New England, and I've been at the Dartmouth School, Tech School now for 25 years. But I have many, many close ties to India, and some of you may know my wife is Indian, so Poonam Keller. I got married in Mumbai, it's about 30 years ago, okay, so a while ago. So I've been back many times. I've learned a lot about cricket through the years, as anyone would. And so, but it's a real pleasure to have a chance to spend this time with you this evening. What I'm going to try to do, I've got probably too much content, and that's always the academic peril or challenge is trying to share as much as you can in a limited amount of time. So let me, I'll do my best to kind of cover things without going too quickly. I may skip over a few things in the interest of time so that we have an opportunity to have some questions and answers. So I'm going to pull up my my PowerPoint, and I think at that point I may not be able to see you. So if anything comes up, please let me know if something's not working or something like that, because I think I'm just going to be able to see my deck. So let me do that. And then let's get started. There we go. So I assume that is, everyone can see that. Okay, hold on a second. Now something happened. There we go. Wait a second. Okay. So hopefully that's all you can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk about a paper that I published recently in the Journal Consumer Research, which is one of the top marketing journals that focuses on consumer behavior. And it gave me a chance to sort of think about the future of brands and branding. So I thought it would be a good topic for our time together today. The article itself, it covers a lot of what I'm going to talk about. So if for any reason you're interested in more, or I don't get a chance to cover something, you can take a look at this particular article. And I want to sort of start with a little bit on kind of the constant of change, because a lot of people talk about, what's the future of this or that, and kind of have to think about where we've been in, as a field in marketing, where are we going? And the one constant is just change. And I learned that writing a textbook, because there's lots of every edition, there's new material and things that you have to add in or delete or drop. And that said, it really has dramatically increased in recent years. So this is sort of unprecedented times. And some of it was already ongoing, the kind of rapid technological digital developments that have been going on for years, but in many ways have really accelerated, with really the growth of mobile being the most notable one. But obviously the global pandemic, which has affected all of us. And then there's just a lot of cultural, economic right now. We've got inflation in some countries, certainly US, maybe a recession, lots of natural climate change issues, political, very polarized environment, and then social, racial, cultural turbulence. So this is pretty unusual to have all of this coming together at once. So we are living in some very, let me just say, interesting times, but challenging times with so much going on. So they're powerful forces, and they are going to change business. Now, there always is going to be an interest in some stability. It's the case that not everybody wants to have things change all the time. So you're always trying to find a balance.
Sir, please reshare your screen. I think it is not visible now due to some issues.
It's not visible.
It was visible. It is just,
It's not visible? Okay, sorry. Let me try again. So let me know.
Please share again.
Yeah, let me share again. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, now, sir, it is visible.
Okay, now, can you still see it? You can see it okay?
Yes, fine.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is the slide I just had, and again, I sort of started with just mentioning this article from the Journal of Consumer Research. So, and then just talking about change. So the thing about brands, so let's talk about them for a second. They've been around for centuries, for a really simple reason. They play a really valuable role. They serve critical functions because they create value intrinsically, extrinsically, whether it's more functional or utilitarian or more social, cultural, or psychological. They're all benefits, and they enrich consumer lives in different ways, different consumers more or less. It's hard to imagine where brands, if you view brands broadly, because brands are not just products and services. They're people are brands, countries are brands, areas are brand, Delhi, India, you can think of all these as brands. And so when you think about it broadly, it's hard to imagine that not being part of daily life, but even especially those products and services for many people, because they give people a comfort and reassurance and a sense of confidence and peace, especially when there's extraordinary times like we've had, where a lot of fear and apprehension, and that's where you actually see brands doing particularly well. That said, marketplace changes, and that does mean that there'll be challenges and new alternatives to established brands, and that's good and that's healthy, and we're always going to have that where new brands are going to emerge. They emerge, every year. You're going to find some new ones and some older ones that maybe won't be around. So that's fine, because it's all about helping consumers and enhancing consumers' lives, and that's the role of brands, and that's what you want to see. So let me talk a little bit about what I'm going to cover then again in the next sort of 45 minutes or so, 40 minutes. When we talk about brand, I'm going to talk about sort of the changes I see, and I think there are about 8 of them, I think, in total. And I'll, like I say, highlight some of them, like where brands and branding are going. I'm going to start with literally brand elements as part of brands and branding. I want to talk about systems and platforms a little bit, and how that expands beyond product categories and service categories. Talk all about multiple channels and communications and how those are integrated. And then a little bit about consumer loyalty, where that's going and what kinds of adding intangibles to really strengthen consumer loyalty and engagement. And this is something I've just finished a paper for a journal called the Journal of Brand Management that's talking about kind of past, present, and future and how to pull that together. And then really about creating brand stories and narratives as part of that, taking that past, present, and future, and then pushing that forward in terms of a story or a narrative to help guide positioning. And then sort of end with a little bit on market segments, kind of a classic concept, but want to try to emphasize how important it is to recognize this in different segments across the customer base. So let's start, and like I said, I'm going to highlight some things, and hopefully this will be interesting and get you thinking about where brands are and where brands are going to be going forward. So this one is about brand elements. Brand elements are the reality is when you have a brand, it's not just a name. It is more than that. It's also the anything you can trademark: logos, symbols, characters, slogans, all those different things. And you can choose them in a way to help build your brand and your brand equity. And you can help your awareness and you can help your image in terms of creating strong, favorable, and unique brand associations, which is at the heart of a strong brand. How do people think and feel about your brand? And I just put up, you can see these are some famous brands around the world that you can see. And all of them have certain brand elements that are critical for them, their names and their logos, and many of them have slogans in different ways. And so the thing about brand elements, I have a whole chapter in the textbook. There's a lot of criteria. How do you choose a good name, pick a logo, develop packaging, all those things. And those are the criteria here. Some of them on the left side: memorable, meaningful, appealing. That's the more brand building. The right side, adaptable, protectable, transferable, is more defensive, to make sure you don't lose equity. And I put in a box adaptable because I think that's the big change I see happening and going forward with brand elements. Brand elements used to be very static, very fixed. You had your brand name, your logo, you never touched it, you never changed it. At one point in time, it might evolve over time, but you were very protective of it, and it didn't change a whole lot. And I think what happens is there's a realization that you can be a little more creative and clever. And the example was Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola in this campaign is one that from around the world, Share a Coke, which was very, very popular. But when it was first started in Australia, in the headquarters in Atlanta, I think there was a lot of worry that they're actually, changing the packaging and doing something. Again, it wasn't permanent, it was temporary.
Professor Keller, I'm so sorry to intervene in between, but the slides are not progressing. We are able to see just one slide. Can you go to the slideshow? Because we were not able to see the slides on, brand elements. We were not able to see that.
Okay, got it. Now, can you see?
Can you go on slideshow so that the slides progress gradually as and when you click?
Yeah, no. Well, so let me get, so I'm going to get off slideshow. All right, let me try that.
Now we can see brand elements. Yeah, we can see brand elements right now.
Yeah, some reason I don't
Yes,
know
now
why.
sir, it is changing.
I'm sorry, you can see everything now, is that right?
So you can click from there, whichever slide you want to progress, you can click from the left-hand side panel, right?
Well, no, I can do it. They won't be build slides. That's why I went into slide share mode, because then they're build slides. You don't see everything all at once, but that's okay. We'll go with that.
Okay.
There may be something about the Google Meet thing. But anyway, no worries. We'll roll with the punches here. So back to brand elements. So this is, I don't know what slides you saw, but we'll just really do a quick recap, and then we'll move on from here. And again, there are all these brand elements. They can help in different ways. Their criteria you use, left-hand side is the more brand building, right-hand side is the more defensive. It's all sort of part of the textbook. Adaptable is where I think things are changing to be more flexible and updating, updatable, and updating. And I use the Share a Coke example, just saying that what Coke realized was it actually was okay to temporarily change their packaging because it created interest and it created a campaign. It was very brand focused, very consistent with the brand strategy about bringing people together, about happiness and joy. Share a Coke with a friend, and they have different names and all that. Very successful campaign. So I think they're now, that as an example, more and more companies, I think, are going to be willing to try to do things with their brand elements that they may not have before. They're not quite as static. They're a little more dynamic in how they develop them. So the guidelines I talk about is just really quickly, you always should take advantage of all the brand elements. I talk about mixing and matching and really have a strong brand identity. So there's an aesthetic and a personality that's reflected in your different trademarks and colors and all the different kinds of visuals you may have. Slogans are really important. I'm a huge fan of slogans, so I won't go into detail on that, but don't know why, brands, I think all brands should have a slogan. I think they're very, very helpful. And you have to understand how much equity you have in brand elements. Your logo, how important it is, different aspects of it maybe. But you have to make sure the brand elements stay relevant and engaging. That's why being more dynamic with your packaging, maybe doing things temporarily with your logos is fine, all part of that. So I thought I would start here with this. This is only a small part of branding, is your brand itself, but that's an important part because it's literally the name and all the trademarks that you go to market with. And you really want to think about them very carefully because they are, very, very important. And the one thing I will say, last thing I'll say, is some of the logos, a lot of them are changing. MasterCard changed recently, some others, because of the phone, the mobile. You're seeing brands simplify the look of their brand because everything's getting compressed and smaller on a phone. So you can't have or you don't want the same detailed design because you just can't see it on a phone. So you need to think about that and how important that is. So you're seeing that happening too. All right, so you're seeing the slides okay, right? Okay, thumbs up. All right, I can't see you, so I'm taking that as a yes.
Yes, sir. You can see.
I'm taking that as a yes. All right. So the second one I want to talk about is, this is kind of classic marketing, but it's so important, and it's come back again, and it's literally in chapter 1 of Keller. We talk about marketing myopia. Don't define yourself in terms of a product or service. Define yourself in terms of the needs you satisfy, the benefits you supply, the problems you solve. And that suggests developing more of a system and platform approach that goes and spans beyond just product and service categories. You may be partnering with different companies. You may be developing your own system through multiple product introductions and brand extensions. So really, really important. And a couple thoughts here. So one is, again, define your brand promise broadly. What is it that you're delivering? Customer needs and wants and customer benefits, satisfying and supplying. And then thinking about that experience. That's another major theme in marketing is the focus on experiences and creating rich, rewarding customer experiences, rich and rewarding in every sense of those words. And and they integrate. You have a product and services that integrate and come together. And as part of that is like recognizing the power of design. And the thing about a design, and there are companies like Apple and Samsung who just really elevated design in such a meaningful way, in a very powerful way. And design's how a product works, looks, and feels. There's a functional and there's an aesthetic part of it. And that is that transformative power, and especially when you put things together in a way to really create, and Apple is the master, really kind of creating experiences that customers have. And then you really are selling a system and a platform, and you're getting engagement and consumer purchases across a range of different offerings. Another aspect of this is, so again, thinking about what your brand stands for. One of my favorite brands is Nike. And this is Nike's mission statement, and it's right on their website, and it's been there for years, decades really. And their mission is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And there's a little asterisk, as you can see, and if you can, it's pretty small type, at the bottom it says, if you have a body, you are an athlete, okay? So, I'm speaking to a whole audience of athletes. We're all athletes because we all have bodies and we all are active in some way. And so it's a really important statement for Nike because it recognizes that they are not just about the world's elite athletes, they care about everyone. And so that has implications for their product development, has implications for their channels, implications for communications, just everything. And also it's it's the kind of the inspiration and innovation suggests not only their mission, but also their purpose to kind of help and improve and motivate all people who may otherwise may not be part of that. And so they talk about, you know, the mission drives us to do everything possible to expand human potential, kind of going beyond the mission into more purpose. And they talk about different ways they do that, including having a positive impact in communities. And one of my favorite programs that they ran for years was a program called Play. And Play stood for Participate in the Lives of American Youth. And also just in general, thinking about the importance of play. If you let me play sport, be active. And you can see it's a young girl there. So very supportive of both men and women getting involved at all ages. And they would actually put money in the playgrounds and other things in fields where there could be activity, sport. And that, to me, that's just was so important and so powerful. So they had a really clear mission that was, you know, centered on trying to inspire, trying to innovate, trying to do things to help all different kinds of people become more active. And the thing that's interesting is they sort of have developed through the years now an ecosystem of engagement. So they've always done more than just, they were running shoes, they were clothing, they were equipment, they were sort of everything athletic. But now they're bringing technology and personalization and customization in to create this ecosystem of engagement, to get people more engaged with sport, with their activities in recreation. And so it used to be just do it. Now it's just do it and we'll help you. It's all about measurable personal improvement, whatever your goals are, through exercise. And these are some examples with Nike Plus and Nike Ideas sneakers there on the side. That's really for the hardcore Nike fan who's really into the latest releases of new sneakers, etc., new athletic shoes. But I just love the way they've created this, if you want to call it or think of it, a platform or system through, and all to help people be more athletic and reap the benefits of being more athletic, the physical and psychological benefits of being active, which I fundamentally believe in, and I think it just makes a lot of sense. So the point is transcend products and services. I think that's so critical. You're not just selling a product or service. Ideally, you're actually taking a category leadership role, and you are one who kind of leads the market in the industry or the category. Be the chief protagonist of your category. I love that expression. Howard Schultz, the founder and CEO of Starbucks, once said that and talked about that. And I used to hear that at Starbucks, the company, from others. We want to be the chief protagonist of the coffee category. Everything, embrace all that is good and important in what you sell and what you do. And you want to be seen as highly credible, as expert, trustworthy, and likable. And those are so important, all those, that you're good at what you do, you have customers' interests in mind, and you're just interesting or fun to interact with. I always believe that the heart of a great brand are products and services. You do not want to be commodity. You don't have to be commodity. You can always innovate. You can do things differently. And especially as you develop systems and platforms, that creates even more differentiation. And that's kind of the theme here. So let's talk about this third one. This third one, I'm probably going to skip over this a little bit. I've got a paper that was also published in the journal Marketing, which is another one of the top marketing journals, maybe 5 years ago. I think it was 2016 now, maybe, that talks about integrating channels of distribution and communication. I just want to highlight kind of the thinking here. It's really important, and it's something I've thought about ever since I started teaching advertising at the Stanford Business School back in the late 80s, 1980s. And it was all trying to understand integrated communications. It wasn't just about advertising. It was about promotions and sponsorship and in public relations. And now obviously you've got so much digital, different things with your website and your social media and your emails and everything. How do I pull all this together? And I sell to people in so many different ways. And now there's a lot of direct channels of distribution, and that pandemic certainly accelerated that. And then there are obviously the more indirect through traditional retailers and other distributors and third parties. So it's pulling all that together in a really smart way. So this is just a graphic that kind of shows that. And it just says, and just it's a simple one, just breaks it down and says, I've got my product and service, my systems and platforms I just talked about. And then I have channels and communication by which I go to market. Those are kind of the 4 P's of marketing right in this slide. And there's some more push, some are more pull, the channels push and the communications pull, and there's some more personal, there's some more mass, there's some more direct, and there's some more indirect with communications and channels. And the key is to pull all this together. And so these are the slides I am going to skip over just in the interest of time. That one of the things to think about is there are different stages in the consumer decision journey. You have different objectives depending on what stage of the journey someone is on. And you have different platforms to achieve those objectives. So the next set of slides break down the consumer decision journey from the very start where it's like I need to buy something to, going through how the process, the buying process develops, the purchase, the post-purchase, and whether or not I become loyal and more active. So you can imagine there's just, and at any stage I may lose a customer because they say, I don't want this brand for whatever reason. So, and their feedback loops and all that. So that's that one. And then the objectives kind of align with that, where when I'm starting and I have a new brand, I'm just trying to create awareness in what I call salience. And then at the other end is where I've got a very mature brand where I've established myself in the marketplace and I'm really trying to make connections and more engagement. And then I have these 8 communication platforms. So again, just focused on communications, where you've got advertising, promotions, events and experiences, PR, publicity, digital, which there's a whole lot, and mobile as a special form of digital, because one of the learnings is when you go from a laptop or a desktop computer to a tablet to a phone, things change, and partly because of the size, but partly just the behavior, where it's being used, how it's being used. And then there's all the database marketing and direct selling you can do, and personal selling is part of that. So what this paper talks about is how you can take those, if you want to think about it, the different objectives, the different stages that consumers are in, which is in the bottom part, stages of consumer decision journey, the different platforms that exist, which is at the top part, and then think about the communication outcomes and objectives and how you can blend and combine different platforms, different options within platforms to try to achieve different objectives for different consumers at different stages. So it's a very much it's not a quantitative model by any means, but it's more a way to think and make sure that as you're developing your marketing, you're understanding kind of how this process works. And you can simplify this and focus in, but it's nice to have the big picture to start with. All right, so let's go on to the fourth, I think, priority if I'm thinking about the future and future brands and branding. And that's, starts with customer loyalty, which again, consumer loyalty, kind of a core concept to marketing into branding, and the whole idea of adding intangibles to strengthen loyalty and engagement. And so I'm not going to talk, sorry, there's a lot on the slide. I've got a certain way of viewing positioning that it's in the Keller textbook, and it's a whole chapter in the strategic brand management textbook with Vanita Swaminathan, who's my new co-author on the latest edition, the 5th edition. And so, it's a way of thinking about positioning. It's a little different about defining a competitive frame of reference who you're competing with, and then points of parity, points of difference. Points of difference, strong, favorable, unique associations, desirable from a consumer standpoint, deliverable from a company standpoint, differentiating from a competitive standpoint. Critical to have, 3 to 5 is what I aim for with strong brands. But you need points of parity where you break even, where you're close enough that you actually, consumers are willing to trade off for your advantages. So you minimize or neutralize disadvantages and allow your advantages to come through. And there are a lot of different points of parity you need to have. Some are competitive, some are, if I'm good at one thing, in consumers' minds, I'm bad at something else. So I got to break even. And then lastly, a kind of a brand mantra, like a 3 to 5 word phrase that just sort of simplifies and captures the essence of that. So it's internal, slogans are external. So for Nike, authentic athletic performance was their mantra internally for a long time. Just do it was and it still is their slogan externally. So it's a really, I advocate this. I think it's very helpful. I have examples. I won't go through this. This was Nike because we're just talking about that. You'll notice there are points of difference. There's some that are more intrinsic. There's some that are more extrinsic. Intrinsic is more product and service performance related. Extrinsic's more the intangibles, how it makes you feel, and other aspects that aren't actually the product, how the product performs directly. Points of parity are important for Nike to be seen as responsible corporate citizen, being contemporary, up to date, because new competitors emerge, and just offering good value. So even though they're premium priced, people feel they're worth it. There's the mantra. And I just included, which I'll skip over. You can do this with any brand, Starbucks, you can do it with Red Bull, you can do it with Google. And these are all different brands I teach cases with and with my students. And we do this sort of analysis to kind of come up with this. Now, another model I have that is another loyalty model, which I think is a very helpful model. And it's really been picked up. It's in my textbooks. And it's been picked up by a lot of schools and their teaching, and also a lot of companies in different ways, is this brand resonance model. And brand resonance is an intense active loyalty relationship. When you really literally resonate with, as a consumer, I feel in sync or connect in a really deep way with a brand. And the model itself has a ladder and some building blocks, and this is what it looks like. And I won't go into a lot of detail here as much as I would like to, because I love this model. I really, really love this model. But it basically has the 4 stages of building a brand that starts literally with just identity. It's the same questions you would ask a person the first time you met them. Who are you? What are you? What about you? What do you do, et cetera? And what about you and me? Are we become friends, or partners, or business partners, or what have you? And then there are these building blocks that help you go up that ladder, if you will, those stages. And salience is the breadth and depth of awareness. I want my brand to be thought of easily and often, all the right times, in all the right places, all the right ways. It's actually a big, big topic. We could do a whole seminar almost on this. But it's not just awareness, it's more than that. And then performance and imagery, there are the intrinsics and the extrinsics we talked about. Judgments, head, feelings, heart, all kind of going up to resonance, which is an intense active loyalty relationship. It's about attachment, it's about community, it's about literally engagement. And the left-hand side's the more rational route, the right-hand side's the more emotional route. So you really pull all that together. Those are some of the specific dimensions. And then there are questions you can ask about each stage in terms of breadth and depth, in terms of points of parity, points of difference, that next level up, which is the thinking about more the performance and imagery aspect. The emotional and rational duality, the head and the heart. And then lastly, the last part. So there are lots of questions you can ask. So anyway, those are 2 models I think are really important to be thinking about building loyalty. You got to be really well positioned, and you've got to be thinking about how to create that resonance to take that position and build it forward. So these next 2 are kind of linked. And this is some of the more recent work I've been doing. And I'm really excited about this. So I'll just sort of highlight this. There's a paper that'll come out probably later in the year, early next year, that'll talk about this in the Journal of Brand Management. But it's this idea of tapping into the past, defining the present, and mapping out your future with consumers. So it's very much focused on intangibles, and it's really your story as a brand, and maybe as a company with that brand. So, just to start with, when you think about intangibles, emotions and experiences are critical. So before we get into that narrative, and linking emotional rewards to your product and service benefits. Really think about how you can connect your intangibles and your tangibles. I feel like those brands that do that well, Nike being an example, Apple, others, it's so powerful, BMW, in that you create a really tight, cohesive brand because all the emotions really come back to what the product does for me. One. And two is, it's interesting. Again, the pandemic has complicated everything. But I think that once we have public health opportunities to get together again, I think people really want that. And it should say blend. So I'm going to fix this right here. This is the advantage of not me. And there we go. I fixed it. And said bend online. And that's not going to work. Blend is what I wanted to say. Online and offline programs and activities. And I think that's critical because there's so much going online, and I understand how important that is. But people are going to want to have physical experiences. There's nothing like them. Virtual reality or whatever, can take you so far. But that full sensory experiences, I just think they're really important. So set that aside. Those are two priorities. Then blending the past, present, and future, I think, is really where the action is. And brands can connect to their past in terms of their history and heritage and how it has shaped who they are and enabled what they can do. In other words, your roots, making sure people appreciate and understand that, because that affects all of us, how we grew up and where we were and all of that. Then you can talk about your present in terms of your values, personality, and character, and how it influences how the brand thinks and feels. And brands can affirm that and make sure people appreciate that those are your beliefs and those are what guide you in all that you do. And then you can point to your future, which is the classic mission, vision, and purpose. And brands can talk about their potential and how they make a difference and how they will make more of a difference. So all of that. So this is the schematic, and it's really trying to understand and link and tell a story here. And it's all around the value proposition of your products and services. The core, you're providing back to the systems, platforms, all of that. But then you can wrap around that your story, which is trying to tell people more about where you've been, where you are, and where you're going in past, present, future. And you can do that through stories and narratives, and it complements your positioning. And so you can create all those nice emotions and experiences, tie that together and more with really compelling brand stories and narratives. And to me, I think is the strongest brands are going to offer really compelling accounts of their origins, where they've been, their growth, how they progressed, and their destiny, which is where they see themselves going. And like I say, you need to articulate how your past informs who you are now, who you would like to be, and what you would like to do in the future. How your present state enables your future plans. And that's what consumers want to hear, because they're more and more interested in that just in general, and as well as that helps for people maybe to appreciate those products and services that you're selling and why you're selling them, how you're selling them, and where you're going, and all of that. So if you do it well, you're going to seem more authentic and real. You're going to seem more credible, expert, trustworthy, likable. We talked about those three dimensions earlier. And you're going to create a stronger community. And so, and then the thing about this is a way of thinking about positioning that's a little different, that complements points of difference, points of parity, which I still believe in from a decision-making standpoint. So it can help you find those competitive advantages, help to guide consumer decisions in a way to lead to choice for you. But you can also then have stories and narratives that help frame and explain the key elements of your brand meaning in a really memorable and persuasive way. So think about this as top down, bottom up. The bottom up part is points of parity, points of difference, literally the inputs in the decision. The top down are the stories and narratives that kind of frame that and help provide context and maybe enrich or in different ways strengthen those points of parity, points of difference. So the hope is it creates and forges more comprehensive, cohesive brand meaning to make the whole greater than the sum of the parts, so that you're actually taking those points of parity, points of difference, those key decision factors that you want to win on, but you're able to wrap around a nice story and narrative that really enhances it in a way that that you get almost a multiplicative effect. All right, so I want to talk about market segments. And I think then, let's see where we are here. Let me just double check. Yes, actually, it's 7, not 8. So sorry, this is our 7th. And then I'll do a little wrap up and we can open up to some questions and some other things. So the other thing, this is back to the future of branding and the kinds of things marketers need to think about, and the best ones will and should, it's appreciating individual differences across consumers and developing more effective marketing programs across key market segments. And I really strongly believe in this. This is another one of those topics that's been around a long time, but we haven't solved it as marketers. We need to get better at it and think about it in different ways, just like with integrated communications and omni-channel strategies now. So the reality is consumers vary in a lot of different ways. And the coming years, you're going to see increased personalization of brands. And that has been coming on. It only makes sense to find ways in flexible manufacturing or whatever methods to create more for individual consumers, the functional, emotional, and social benefits they seek. So we're not doing mass marketing more, we're finding ways to personalize. And you've got to think about, these segments. You want to do it as much as possible at an individual level, but at least you want to do it at a broader segment level where you're grouping some individuals together. And obviously diversity and inclusion is a big topic in the US. I think it's true in many other countries. And thinking about that in many different ways. It's not just racial or ethnic identity or cultural or religious affiliations. It can be demographic, attitudinal, behavioral. There are lots of other ways to break down markets that we've always done. One of the ones I think is really important is brand engagement. So when I'm thinking of developing my marketing programs for brands, I'm thinking in part about engagement and recognizing how much difference, and heterogeneity is just an academic term for differences, how much difference there is that exists. And so one of the things I've developed is this brand engagement pyramid that I use in textbooks. I use some when I work with companies and talk about it. And it sort of recognizes that there is a pyramid, if you will, of consumers. And at the very top are your highly engaged, highly motivated, can't get enough of the brand consumers. That's small, relatively for almost all brands, compared to the base of that pyramid, who are those consumers who are not that involved and maybe not at all involved or engaged with the brand. They choose it, they use it, that's it. So it's all about just purchase, consumption, and I'm done. And to be honest, that's the way we are with a lot of our brands. We have so many brands in our lives daily. We can't be actively engaged with all of them. We wouldn't have time to do anything else. So as a brand marketer, I have to recognize my customer base has these groups. And the question is, how many are at the top, how many are at the bottom? But I've got to find ways to market, just like Nike did, that reach the top and the bottom. I've got more on that in a second. And it's not just what I do that's the left-hand side. The right-hand side are those non-brand influences, because all these people are being influenced by outside of my control, what people are hearing and reading and other kinds of things. So I've got to think a little bit about who to target and how to market to different people. And lastly, the arrows within this pyramid are the flows, because it may be that I am not that engaged, but I'm sort of influenced by people who are, because I read them or hear about them or see them. Or it may be that there's also, that's the more vertical, there's more horizontal, where I create little communities at different levels in different ways. So understanding the structure and dynamics of this pyramid is really important. The shape, the flows of information, either at the same level within or across, so horizontal or vertical. Are there trickle-down effects? Do my most loyal customers and most engaged customers somehow affect others in different ways? and then really thinking about what to do at the top and the bottom. And the way to think about this, I've kind of given you a couple different pyramids. The left-hand one we talked about earlier, that's about brand building. That's about converting non-customers, getting them into my brand and making them highly loyal, going up the left-hand side, right-hand side, the rational emotional routes to create meaning with performance imagery, responses with judgments and feelings, and then relationship with resonance. The right-hand side is about really taking that resonance, the top part, and recognizing that resonance, the people who are actually up there, there's a range of resonance, and some of them are very low. They're just, just repeat buying, that's it. And so they're maybe at the bottom of that engagement period. And there's some who are really high. So it's really trying to hone in a little bit on that aspect. And Nike, I have to say, this is something Nike has talked about for years. And Nike actually thinks about top athletes. They call this a pyramid of influence. They feel there's a lot of flow down from a Serena Williams or a LeBron James in tennis and basketball that affect people, more casual athletes. And so they've always marketed both directly and indirectly to everybody. So you can see the arrows reach all the levels because, again, they have a very broad access point if you're have a body or an athlete. So something to think about. And there are other pyramids you can develop. There's a brand of Levi's owns a brand called Dockers, which is pants. And one of their questions is how you can create a pyramid of fashionability, where at the very, very top of the people who are very leading edge, fashion forward, and how much do you want to be there versus Dockers, probably not there, probably down a little bit, or LL Bean, which is another brand that sells outdoor. They're famous, they're over 100 years old, and they're from near where I live in Maine, the state of Maine, in New England. And they're very famous for outdoors, but they're not really trying to go to the very, very top of the pyramid. Those most highly engaged outdoors, hardcore, it's down a little bit. So you got to kind of decide how you want to play that and figure that out. So, and again, so this is just sort of showing that relationship and how that works. All right, so let me summarize. I apologize if I went too fast, and hopefully everything, you're able to see things and hear things, and my American accent, I guess, was not too hard to understand. So let me sort of wrap things up. So, just to summarize, I think these are some of the themes that we kind of covered in keys, if you will. Got 2 slides here on this. One is the proper scope and meaning, and that's systems and platforms and the depth, breadth, and relationship of what you sell. And then thinking about distribution and communications, that integration, direct, indirect, personal mass, just so important. So think more broadly about what you sell. Think more broadly about how and where you sell. Think more broadly about the intangibles and thinking about past, present, future emotions and experiences, narratives and stories. And then think more broadly about your customer base in terms of more heterogeneity, individual differences, customer pyramids, etc. So the major theme in some ways is, look, there's more multiplicity. There's more we can do. We can create systems and platforms. We can use multiple channels of communication and distribution. We can create lots of intangibles. And we've also got this heterogeneity on the customer side. And so what you have to do is integrate, come up with solutions that are integrative, that pull all that together and balance and blend that multiplicity with the heterogeneity and figure out ways to make those connections. So with that, I'm roughly on time, I think. And so last 2 slides. So good branding is an art and a science. I really believe in that, always have. And this is something we can talk more about. It's being analytical and systematic and being almost scientific, if you will. And that is with different branding tools and concepts. And I share some of those with you. I have others even more that I didn't share. I think it's really key to have those. That's what we teach in business school, is how to be rigorous, analytical, systematic. But at the same time, and this is the fun part and interesting part of branding and marketing, is the art part, to be creative and inspired. And some of that is just literally inspiration, imagination. But a lot of it is just more, how do I use those tools in the right way? And here, my belief is that you're guided by branding philosophy, that there's certain assumptions you make about how brands work, how markets work, a certain point of view about consumers, how they think, how they feel, how they act, all based on your experience. And the more you do it, the more experience you get. I've been doing this 40 years, so I've got a lot of experience. And that has informed me. So I use these tools with a lot of that knowledge in mind. So that's when I talk about art and the science. It's not literally art in just the really imaginative way. Some of it's art more in how skillfully I can use these tools. And that's guided by my philosophy. So I really believe in that. And that's, I'm sure, what you're getting in your school, in your classes, and as you learn, is you're getting both of that. And that's so important. All right, with that, let me thank you for listening. I wish you all luck in your studies and your careers, and I will stop sharing and we can open it up to questions and other things. So let me do that now.
Thank you so much, sir. And we had a brief journey of how the brands are built. So within 40 minutes only you could do that job. So thank you very much. And now the house is open for questions. So all the students and scholars who want to put forth their questions, they can do it right now. Anil, you have a question? So can I read it out, Sada?
Yes, Nujat, you may read it out. You may read some of the questions, and otherwise people can unmute themselves and ask the question. You can ask.
You can raise your hands also.
Yeah, they can raise their hands. We've got a lot of queries in the chat box. You can take it one by one, Nujat.
Okay. So I think Anil has a question, sir. And am I audible enough, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just a second. Why had Nike become so powerful as a brand in such a short time in spite of other Goliaths?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Nike, it's funny, they have been around for, maybe 50 years, so it's not necessarily a short time, but internationally it's shorter in some markets. But the thing, I think there are two keys that I have, because again, the thing about Nike that's amazing is they're a brand that started selling athletic shoes for tennis, running, and basketball, mostly Americans, mostly males, mostly ages 12 to 29 or 34. Now they sell all kinds of shoes, clothing, equipment to all kinds of people in all kinds of sports in all kinds of countries. So it's a phenomenal growth trajectory. And part of it is, I think it's a great example of the importance of two things. One is innovation and relevance, and the ability to always be moving forward, but moving forward in the right direction. They've always done that, and they're always innovating. They're always staying close to their customers, and they've learned as they went into different markets. They made mistakes in Europe. They learned when they went into Asia, and so I think that's part of what they do. And the other thing I'd say, other lesson about Nike is you can cover a lot of ground if you take little steps. Sometimes trying to do big leaps are hard. It's hard on the organization. It's hard on the customers. They don't understand why. You may have more credibility questions. And so what they've done is they've just expanded. They just kept moving and moving forward. And, at certainly a vigorous pace or rigorous pace. But so that's my Nike story. I just think that's the kind of the lessons I would take from them is the importance of innovation and relevance, and the importance of just, building brands through little steps, that you're always, the keys are always moving forward in the right direction.
Okay, Zishan also has a question, and he's asking about what would be the best way to gain brand recognition and build customer trust? So.
Well, yeah, those are kind of two different things. I mean, recognition is just more where consumers sort of, that you're become a known brand in some way. And recognition itself, there are lots of ways just to try to get your brand out there and make sure it's visible and people appreciate what you do. And that's critical. The one thing I think about you have to keep in mind is that often it's not just that that people are aware of your brand. It's more that they know what you do. That's kind of the foundation. And then trust is something you earn. It's not something you can just sort of say. It's what you do. You know, I think that's important. So you're always trying to balance that with, you know, trying to make sure that you're earning the trust of consumers by satisfying them, addressing problems, all those things, and building a reputation around that. And I think that's kind of the key thing. So that's why I said, to me, one of the most important marketing, I love this concept. I think it's true for people. I think it's true for companies and brands, is credibility. And credibility is expertise, trust, and likability. And trust is an important part, but so is expertise and so is likability. And you really want the strongest brands have all three. You're good at what you do, you care about me as a customer, and I just, you know, enjoy spending time with you. You're interesting, fun, whatever it is. So that's, I think, the strength of three brands. That's
Thank you, sir.
Credibility, yeah.
I think Dr. Arif has a question. You can proceed, Arif.
Thank you so much. Well, sir, thank you for the wonderful insights that we have got from you. We have been talking about Nike as one player in the market. The other one is the Coca-Cola, and we have been knowing them for, bringing all the best advertisements in the world. Now we see a bit different kind of an advertisement, or we can say the branding, the way of branding, where sustainability, environmental friendliness is being, captured in, roped in with the brand name. And now the bigger players, they're trying to, brand themselves up with these particular terminologies. How do you see the future ahead with environmental friendliness and sustainable development coming together with the brand? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. You know, and it's funny, Coca-Cola, it's come a long way in India. I know when 30 years when I was getting married, it was thumbs up. I think it was definitely the cola of choice. And I'm not sure you could find Coca-Cola at that point. So, yeah, no, I think great question. I think, to me, the three major forces, and Phil Kotler believes in this too, and that's why we have this in the marketing management textbook. It's social, global, and technological. And social in a broad way that encompasses also environmental. And so any brand has to kind of react and respond to that. So I do think, and if I'm Coca-Cola, the challenge is that, I want to address sustainability issues for sure. There's health issues associated with the products I'm selling. I need to address those. And then there's even social issues I might want to think about, because I'm all about togetherness and joy. So I think the question is not, do you address them? You have to. It's just how much and how prominent do you make them in your marketing? And the only thing I'd be careful about there is you want to make sure that you understand what customers want from your brand and what differentiates you. And I always go back to desirable, deliverable, differentiating for a brand. Desirable from a consumer standpoint, deliverable, company, differentiate. And the environmental and sustainability, there are minimally points of parity. I have to be good enough in those areas. Now, how much I communicate them, that's a different story. So that's the only thing I think a little bit about. And there are times you may elevate that because you feel like there's a gap in the perceptions in the marketplace and the reality of who you are and what you're doing. And so you elevate that some. But most brands are not going to necessarily make that the centerpiece, because there are other benefits that are also important that they want to get across. And so it's trying to find that balance. When and how do you sort of do that? So great question, though, and I think that'll be very interesting in the next 5-10 years to follow that.
Thank you, sir. I think one last question. Rajshri has one question. Rajshri, you want to speak? Want to ask the question?
Thank you, Professor Kevin, for the wonderful presentation. It was really insightful. My question to you is, as we see that the future is getting digitalized, everything we see is getting online. So what do you think is the future of branding in the rural areas, the backward areas? What is the future and how can they tap this market?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I heard everything about the online, but what was the specific thing you were asking? So it's moving online, but what aspect of online were you asking about? Just so I want to make sure I get that.
Like, what advantages are there? What opportunities do they have?
Yeah, got it. Okay. No, and again, great question. That's back to what I just said. The third force is technological. And obviously, digital is a huge part of that. All the different forms. I mean, the main thing is obviously information. You gain and can share so much information, and that is powerful because ideally, I would learn more about a brand because now I can get information online about others can talk about it, all these things. And then, but importantly, I as a manufacturer can gain information about customers and consumers. So hopefully in a more information-rich environment, I'm better able to find ways to meet consumers. And all of that, I think, is going to be really critical going forward. The only qualification is what I said earlier, is that people don't want to just live in a digital world, even though it's important. And I think thinking about other ways, other aspects of your brand, I think they're going to create more richness to a brand. They're going to create more ways to connect with customers. And I think that the digital is powerful, but it is, one way. And I think just being careful. And I always just think that, and again, you can go back, years ago, literally go back, I don't know how many, 70 years ago or whatever, there was no TV. So people just had radio. I mean, 100 years ago, it was just newspapers, and then it was radio, and then there was TV, and, you kind of go through all this. And so it always gives you another way to connect with your customers, but it's trying to take advantage of the strengths and weaknesses. So when you were saying the advantages, main advantages are information, timeliness, all those nice things that digital gives you, but there's some things it doesn't give you, and maybe some of the more emotional experiences and some other things that you can do more physical, the advantages of physical. And so I think the interesting ones are the retailers, because retailers now have to sell online, offline, or they can, and they have to decide how they want to handle that. So I think the retail market over the next 10 years is going to be really interesting because it's very expensive to sell offline, but there are times you want it. So, for different categories. So
Thank
thanks.
you, sir. Can we take some more questions, or because there are a lot of questions coming?
Yeah, we can see so many questions in the chat box. We won't be able to take all of them, but maybe one or two interesting questions, Nudrat, you can ask, sir, and then we can proceed.
Yes, I think Samantha wants to ask a question. So she's talking about how Coca-Cola can address the consumer heterogeneity issue. So she wants a few thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, to be honest, Coca-Cola is probably one of the easier brands for them to deal with because they have the resources and the ability to do very specific segments and recognize, different, whether, again, thinking about it culturally or levels of engagement. And so they can figure out ways to do that. I think, so they have that opportunity, and I think they do that to some extent. And I think the more challenging is when you have fewer resources and how do you make sure, and your audience is, got a lot of heterogeneity, a lot of differences. So can I create a marketing program that kind of manages to work with most of them, even if not all of them? How much can I literally do some more segment specific? And I think the more I can do, the better off I'll be. So I'll always be thinking about that. But it's a bit more challenging when I don't have the resources. And resources it's the people power, people who actually can design and implement, and the resources to go to market in different ways. So thinking about all that. So, but good question. And it's nice to watch the McDonald's and the Coca-Cola, some of these big global companies, and see what things they're doing. And it's not that if I'm a smaller brand, I'm going to try to do the same things, but I can't. But I can learn a little bit and think about what I can do that may help me in my market, in my categories, do better marketing in some ways. So it's always something good to keep track of.
Thank you, sir. I think Ishrat also has a question. So the last one we are taking, Ishrat.
Okay.
You're on mute. Ishrat.
Am I audible now?
No, yes. Now.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much, first of all, for such an insightful session. So actually, there's one thing that I always wanted to get some insights from you. As we know that the whole world is now proceeding forward to enter into metaverse, and now striving forward to create their existence in the metaverse. Now, I want to know your insights about How do you think that now companies should, you can say, revisit their branding strategies when it is in the context of metaverse? And what are the things, like for example, when we talk about brand equity, when we talk about brand loyalty, brand trust, how is it going to, you can say, change in the field of this metaverse?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and unfortunately, I do not have a great answer. Okay, because to be honest, I have not studied that yet. I'm still sort of waiting for that, as it's evolving and developing. So that's part of it. I'm still not sure exactly all the, where that's going and all those dynamics. What back up, so I encourage, thinking through that question and what it means. But at this point, I'm just happy to come up with recommendations and suggestions when I can. But in this case, I'm not there yet. So I'm not quite ready to go out and say, here are some things you need to do. Because I need to study a little bit more. So it's a little newer. So great question, but we'll have to hold off on that.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful session. Thanks.
Sure, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now we'll proceed with the program further. And now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Reshma Nasreen, Professor at the Department of Management and Dean Students Welfare at Jamia Hamdard, to deliver the presidential remarks. Ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Nandra. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Yes.
First, let me thank you, sir, for making two time zones come together on the same at the same time. So it's good morning to you, and good evening to all the researchers and the scholars who are very eager to join. And I'm sure the questions are never ending. I can see them popping up in the chat box. And that is for Rajshri, that is the beauty of the digital age. Although time span for any brand is a bit short, but the window that it opens is very wide. So you have consumers not only in a particular niche market, the window is very broad. And sir, I am totally in awe of you. So I may fumble, I may not be able to deliver, I may not be able to uh, express myself as clearly. But in Indian mythology, we have got the Mahabharata, because your better half is an Indian. You might have heard about it. So in that there is a guru uh, whose people. There is Eklavya, one character in Mahabharata, who used to just see the statue of Dronacharya. He was a very famous guru who used to teach archery, and he just by worshipping him, he became a very very big archer, this Eklavya. So the details you can get from Madam Poonam, but you are the Dronacharya to all the Eklavyas who are sitting here. So I just messaged to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, we are hearing a lecture from the God of brand management. So that is how we see you, sir. Uh, I can't express enough, sir, the honor that you have bestowed on us by coming to deliver this lecture. We are honored, we are humbled, and we are above all delighted, sir. Thank you so much for sparing your time and delivering this lecture. As is the human nature, sir, when you get good things, you start desiring more. So if and when you come to India, or you would spare some time to counsel us in future, we would, I don't know how to say it, we would be again humbled, honored, and delighted. Thank you so much, sir. So you said one thing from your slide, I have taken this, so there's no plagiarism. I'm quoting you just right here. You said that the strongest brands offer compelling accounts of their origins, growth, and destiny. In this context, sir, I'd like to tell you about Jamia Hamdard. Jamia Hamdard, like Professor Shibu John in the welcome address, he told you we are barely 32 years old, 33-year-old university, but uh, nowadays we are being considered in the league of two other famous universities which had been created by the statute of parliament in India, that is Aligarh Muslim University and Jamia Millia. So being a relatively new university to be included in the triad is a achievement of sorts for us. And this university, sir, has been a sole initiative of a founder father, Hakim Abdul Hamid, who what he gave his land, his whole time and property in designing the campus, the 100 almost 100-acre campus that we sit at the hearts of Delhi. Is a green campus, sir. We have got green initiatives throughout, and sustainability in built. So we go for rainwater harvesting. We have got composting, and like the Professor Shibu had told you, that we have got it's basically a healthcare. I would say it's a basically a professional course based university, wherein we have got pharmaceutical school, and we got the medical school. The interesting thing about a medical school is that we uh, complement it with the Unani system of medicine also. So the natural system of medicine also is there. And apart from that, we have computer science, we have got management, and these are relatively, like, management is only 2 decades old. Like it started in 1998, although the university started in 1989. But we are making efforts, sir. We are growing. I cannot say by leaps and bounds, but we are growing steadily. We understand where we stand as of now, and we are making all efforts to become more relevant to the our target audience societies, uh, facilitate the education of the marginalized communities, not only Muslims, but other marginalized communities as well. So Jamia Hamdard is trying its level best in that context. Your CBBE pyramid that forms the base for lots of vision mission statements that I think for the interview that I gave for my professor, I had taken the CBB pyramid and I told how we can uh, identify the brand elements and how we can take on the salience and ultimately go on to the engagement by having the resonance. So what can I say? So what a time, a model which transcends time, and that is what you have given. I think it has been relevant to us, and it will continue to be relevant as we keep on interpreting it in different ways. So thank you once again, sir. We would definitely like to host you at Jamia Hamdard, sir. If you come to India, please come to Delhi, and all your Eklaviyas will be there waiting for to welcome you, sir. Please come to India. We would be honored. We would be thrilled to host you here, sir. Thank you so much. And all of the participants have told what an insightful and what a delightful journey. And I would like to just add on, sir. Great people have got great thinking. The way you accepted our invitation, sir, and the way you have interacted with us on a one-to-one basis, that shows your greatness, that exemplifies your personality. Thank you so much. You were already great, and the icing on the cake is that your wife is Indian. So your greatness has quadrupled, I might say. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your address.
No, thank you. Thank you for all those nice words. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And now I would like to invite Dr. Abdullah to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Abdullah.
Thank you so much, sir, to deliver such a wonderful lecture. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Len Keller, sir, for accepting our invitation and sparing his time out of his busy schedule and staying connected with all of us to deliver the webinar on such a relevant topic. His book is known as a Bible of Management. We all are immensely thankful to him for delivering such an excellent lecture on future of brands and branding and providing a way forward to academicians and marketers for future research and practice on the topic. Then I would like to thank Professor Shivu John, Dean, SMBS, for always supporting our initiative, and Dr. Syed Nadeemul Haq, Sir, HOD Management. I am also really thankful to Professor Reshma Nasreen ma'am and Dr. Sadaf Siraj ma'am for motivating and supporting us and putting their efforts to make this program possible. I would also like to thank Dr. Nudrat Moini Rahman, Neha, Swati, Shirley, Shikhil, Anil, Kiran, Rashi, and for their coordination, and all the faculty members, scholars, and students for their active participation. Thank you all to make this program successful. Once again, on the behalf of entire Jamia Hamdard fraternity, I would like to thank Professor Kevin Lan Keller, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir. I am pretty sure that you oftenly visit to India because Madam is from India. So I would whenever you will visit to India next time, so please come to Jamia Hamdard.
No, I appreciate that. No, she and her family are in Mumbai, and that's typically
Mumbai, yes.
Mumbai. So that's where we got married, and that's where I go. But Delhi is not a hard place to get to. So hopefully I'll get a chance when I'm over there to do that.
You're most welcome here, sir. You're most welcome. All of us eagerly await your arrival, if and whenever you decide, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. No, I appreciate all the kind words and just the opportunity. Again, it's to me pretty amazing that I'm sitting where I'm sitting and we're having this conversation. So talk about the amazing technology. It's just, it's incredible. So anyway, but no, appreciate it. And I'm glad to have the opportunity. I wish you all luck, for going forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can I just make a point here? We want to thank Dr. Abdullah also for his marvelous efforts that we could actually listen to, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, Abdullah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye now.
All of you are requested to fill the attendance link because we need it for issuing the e-certificates. Thank you so much.
With your permission, Dr. Sadaf Siraj, the convener of the program, may I leave?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
So we can allow the participant to fill the attendance link by 8:15 p.m.
Yes. Request you all to fill the attendance link by 8:15 because it will be closed after that.
I've already submitted that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All of you can do that. Thank you so much for your active participation. Thanks a lot. Now we can officially close the meet.
Maybe we can officially close the meet.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
so much.
everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.